Canada's housing crisis continues to get worse. People are struggling with the interest rates. They are struggling with their rent. They are struggling with house prices. And who is to blame? It is Trudeau and the Liberals. They continue to do the worst things possible to not help the real estate market. And they are showing that they not only don't know what they're doing, they don't care. Maybe it's up to you guys at home to decide, is this on purpose? Because in today's video, we have a video of Trudeau at a press conference talking once again about the budget and the housing plan. So many of the things that he says are incorrect. Not only will they not help, they will potentially hurt and make the problem worse than it already is. So what I've done is I queued up a video with a Canadian housing market update. There's some details in there that are important for what we're going to talk about with the Trudeau video. But before we get into that, don't forget my Axe the Tax store is officially live this week. We do have the hats, the mug, the shirt, and the stickers. Remember, only buy if you can afford it. This is about starting the conversation, spreading the message. I'd love to see you guys out there with some of the gear. Now let's get into today's video.
Let me just give you the information about the house.
Real estate agents are able to show clients more options this spring. The demand for housing last month was not as strong as April 2023, according to the Canadian Real Estate Association.
Last year, there was a lot of buyers and no sellers. This year, we've got the sellers showed up, but the buyers are still, seem like they were in hibernation last year, and it looks like they've hit the snooze button so far.
It found home sales dropped about 1.7%, while the number of listings remained close to average for this time of year. While conditions for buyers appear to be improving, experts say the remaining sticking point is the Bank of Canada's interest rate.
Of course, we know the interest rate is one of the major problems because people just cannot afford to buy right now. One of the reasons I wanted to stop it there as well is just to remind you guys, when you see realtors talking about, oh, the market's really hot right now, stuff's going on, it has been a particularly slow market, and not just in my market in London, Ontario. I am a real estate agent in London, Ontario. Reach out to me in the link below if you want to work with my team here or all the way across Canada. We'll hand select somebody for your area. But all across Canada, there are some standout markets where things are getting a little bit better. Things are still competitive from a offers and buyers perspective. And yes, pricing is still very high all the way across Canada. But I just mean you now are in a position where, as the buyer, like they said, you're able to walk through more houses. You're able to get the conditions that you want. A lot of people are getting their properties under the asking price. So it is not heating up like they're saying. It's actually been particularly slow.
Spring, the central bank's decision to hold the rate at 4.5% in back-to-back announcements saw a flood of buyers enter the market. The bank increased the rate in each of its next two opportunities.
I think it's once bitten, twice shy. I think buyers this year have probably moved into the camp of I'll believe it when I see it.
But Sean Cathcart says for some buyers, a 25 basis point decrease will offer enough of an indication to re-enter the market, while others could wait for a larger change.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if a 0.25% is going to be enough to get the market that heated. Like he said, once bitten, twice shy, because we've been told the rates are going to come down. The rates are going to come down. They are going to, but at what pace and how long is it going to take? So is 0.25 enough? Because that really does not change affordability when it comes to the rates on the house. So it's like you're still going to have a lot of people on the sidelines. They're going to want to see that it's an ongoing trend, that we're going to continue the cuts, not just a 0.25.
While the current situation has seen a hold on prices in many parts of the country, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation notes housing starts are beginning to slow. It says the seasonally adjusted annual rate of housing starts dropped by about 1% nationwide, comparing April to March.
That's why I also wanted to show this video, because when Trudeau gets into his nonsense later, and we know the Liberals have their number of 4 million houses by 2030 or 2031, whatever it is, it's all nonsense anyway, so I don't really pay attention to the exact dates. Housing starts are down because of Liberal spending. The reason this is a Liberal problem is because if the government stopped pumping the markets with these fake government jobs that are not economically productive, if they stopped putting out free money into the market, if they stopped printing, we would have been able to cut the interest rates sooner. Instead, we've had to stay higher for longer because of government spending. And what's happened? The home builders are now cutting their housing starts. And that's a huge deal because housing starts are slow. They take time to plan for. They take time to actually strategize and build. These are things that could be impacting us a couple years down the road, especially when you're talking apartment buildings. You know, all of these houses are bigger houses. They're not really entry-level homes. That's what they usually use in the B-roll that they have. But apartment buildings take even longer to get started. So if we're seeing less starts on that, that is going to be very slow when it comes to us having an impact on the housing crisis.
MHC Chief Economist Bob Dugan attributes this to the current interest rate market, the limited labor force, and fewer multi-unit builds in Vancouver and Toronto.
There's no limited labor force. We are seeing construction layoffs. I covered it in my job market update video from before. Construction is shrinking right now. It's not a labor force issue.
What we're seeing is the pipeline of new projects that are going to be started is coming down. So that's why we think this year in Toronto, Vancouver, multi-unit starts in particular are going to be down.
CMHC has reported the country needs an additional 3.5 million homes by 2030 to bring housing back to an affordable level. That means doubling the current number of new housing projects, which is around 240,000 units annually. Kyle Benning, Global News.
Yeah, we're going to double our current projects that we're able to do just overnight, which is what Trudeau's telling us that we're going to do. In this next video, let's get into it.
Challenge right now where young people need more support. But it's not anything that young people are doing wrong. On the contrary, they're doing everything right. They're working hard, harder than just about any previous generation, with more side hustles, more extra opportunities. They're trying to figure things out, navigate things through. But the system has changed. The exact same amount of work, the exact same good contributions made a generation before, by generation before of young people, would result in them being able to own a home. These young people, no matter how much they work, no matter how hard they much they set aside, it just doesn't seem possible. And that's what this budget is focused on turning around, changing the system so that we can actually give to these young people who are key to the success of our country, of our economy. And
changing the system? You are the system. You've been the system for 9 years. Maybe if you pull down the lever of immigration, which is the largest impact because we got 1.3 million immigrants in 2023 and 2024, we are trending to continue to go up. Maybe why don't you cut that by 3/4, and then the ones we bring over are specific trades, medical, all jobs that we actually need right now, and you directly control that. You control who comes over, how they come over, and the system itself. So it's so funny. The system has changed. These young people are being punished. You've been in power for 9 years, you bonehead.
Of our future, the same kind of hope that their hard work will be rewarded. So we're here to talk about what we're doing to make housing more accessible and more affordable right here in the GTHA and right across the country. 2 weeks ago, we released a budget that will make the economy fairer for every generation, especially for millennials and Gen Z. And making the economy fairer for everyone starts by making sure people can afford a home. Young people need to live with their parents for longer than ever before, or they have to have roommates for a longer period because rents are too high. When you're 20-something and you have your whole life in front of you, but you cannot picture yourself ever owning a home, that's a problem in a country like Canada. We need to change that.
Yes, we do. And we know how. You haven't once mentioned lowering demand with immigration. And we know he never will, because politicians, for some reason, think it's political suicide to mention, I'm going to cut immigration. We need to be more vocal, because I'm even seeing Pierre out there. He's going to the rallies. He's going all these things. Immigrants, we're going to get all these immigrants going. Like, you guys know he's saying that. And all politicians in Canada think that it's a death sentence to say, we're getting rid of immigration. We're not even getting rid of it. Just cut it a little.
So today, I want to focus on some of our measures to support both renters and first-time home buyers. For young people who want to buy a home for the first time, we know how challenging it can be to get into the housing market. To support them, we've already launched the First Home Savings Account, and close to 750,000 Canadians have now opened an account.
We need Trudeau to cut demand. That is another increased demand option. It's a nonsense one. Even if they somehow save up enough money in a short enough amount of time, which they probably won't because of where house prices are, they're not going to get qualified for the mortgage based on income. So this is a demand side one, but it's just a nonsense one.
In our budget, we're also increasing the Rrsp withdrawal limit from $35,000 to $60,000 so that first-time homebuyers can save up $25,000 more for their down payment faster.
That one I also have a problem with, because again, you are increasing the demand side, making more people potentially able to buy a house. double reason why I have a problem with it is if you use your RRSP to buy a home, you are basically buying your house on a 100% leverage. And yes, I understand that's technically your money, but if you've taken out that 60,000 number that he talks about and you're not able to pay it back and you claim that as income now, you will have had to have paid the taxes on that income. That you'll probably be in a top tax bracket at that point because it'll be on top of your regular income, which means you might not even get access to that full 60 grand, or you're just making the payments as it goes on top of your mortgage over the time that they've allotted. So either way, if you use an RRSP to buy a house, you've now bought a house on 100% leverage, which again, demand side, making it so more people can buy houses, making it potential for more competition. He won't talk about just cutting immigration. It's not all immigration. We obviously need to increase the supply side as well. Supply has to change. We need the rates to come down. So we need government spending to stop. Rates can come down. Immigration can come down. Building can go up. And then that would be the hugest impact.
The way it used to work for RRSP withdrawals for home buying was that you needed to start repaying within 2 years. But now we're temporarily extending that grace period to 5 years because of the pressures people are feeling right now.
2 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. You're loaning the money to yourself.
And for those who've had a hard time building a credit score so they can eventually get a mortgage, we're calling on banks, fintechs, and credit bureaus to allow your rental history to be taken into account in your credit score. I mean, think about it. Young people right now are paying a larger proportion of their monthly incomes on rent than any generation before, and more of them are renting. And that's money they're paying regularly, like clockwork, every month, and getting no credit for it in the bigger picture.
This one is so annoying, and I've talked about it in other videos, because it doesn't even help at all. When you're applying for a mortgage, yes, if you have a good credit score, your interest rate can be mildly better, which means you can slightly afford more house. It's nothing. People are able to build their credit scores through credit cards, your cell phone bill, lines of credit, any other car payments, whatever it is. People are constantly building their credit scores. As a renter, the problem is not that they don't have a good credit score and they can't buy a house. The problem is that their rent is high and they can't afford to save a house because the cost of living is going up and house prices are going up. The only change that I would have loved to have seen that was similar to this is if you had built a rental history. Let's say the bank now goes, hey, you've rented a place for $2,500 a month for 5 years. We now have proof you can afford $2,500 a month. We will give you a mortgage of up to $2,500 a month. That's a good mortgage. That's buying you a great house in most cities across Canada, obviously not Toronto and Vancouver, but a $2,500 mortgage is getting you into the market. And that would be an actual impacting, needle moving platform that would make sense. So it's crazy to me that this think tank of people is going like, what if rent impacts credit scores and it makes it better? It feels like there's something other nefarious behind them wanting to connect that to your credit score. I don't know what it is, but it's not helpful, and they have to know that.
Well, if you're paying every month a rent of $2,000 or $1,500 or whatever it is, you should be able to have the bank look at that and say, wow, you've been a diligent and responsible renter for the past years. We're more comfortable offering you a better, bigger mortgage sooner because you've proven yourself to be reliable. That's something that we can do, and that's something that we're making happen right now.
He's explaining closer to what I'd like to see, but that's not what it is. It's just it's counting towards your credit score.
To return short-term rentals to the long-term market, we're cracking down on short-term rental operators that don't comply with the relevant provincial or municipal laws. And to support these efforts, we'll launch a $50 million short-term rental enforcement fund. Mayor Horvath, Andrea, I know that Hamilton recently passed a first-of-its-kind law focused on protecting tenants against rent evictions. Thank you for leading the charge on renter protection locally, and you can count on the federal government to be here as a partner on housing and on protecting renters.
So they're going to blow $50 million to crack down on short-term rentals. So at most, let's say we get 10,000 units all the way across Canada, because he didn't even say every short-term rental. He said the non-compliant ones. So let's say we get 10,000 units all the way across the country. Great. We're still getting 1.3 million immigrants. What would be a bigger impact? cutting that number by 75% or even 50%, or getting 10,000 units back that they're spending $50 million. Don't forget to check out the Axe the Tax store. The link is below to work with me and my team all the way across Canada as a real estate agents as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.